Welcome everybody, and thank you for joining me today for this introduction to creating fields within Dynamics 365. My name is Ryan Talsman. I'm the Dynamics 365 CRM Product Manager here at Interdyne BMI. And today, as I said, we're going through an introduction to creating fields. And when I say introduction, we're going to be going at the absolute basics. And again, I always give this disclaimer. I wouldn't recommend using this as an alternative to training or having a partner help set up your system initially. But we do understand that some people want to take this on and give it a shot, whether it's due to budgetary reasons or anything else as far as just wanting to learn how to manage the system on their own. So with that, let's go ahead and dive into it. So there are a couple different places that you can get to the area where you can create fields. I'm going to recommend you start in settings and then click customize the system, and that's going to pull up your configurator module here. So within the configurator module, I've already selected fields under the account entity. So the fields are entity specific. So if I created a field for an account that I also want a very similar one for opportunity, I'm going to have to create that in both places. But that being said, the types of fields that you can create for all entities are pretty much the same. So it's not like you have to relearn everything for each separate entity. So again, all I did within this module prior to starting this video is I expanded out entities, I expanded out the entity that I want to work with, and that's accounts, and now I want to add a field to an account. You can see here we have a bank of pre-built fields already. There's quite a few to choose from. Not all of these start on the form, but let's say that I want to add a few new ones here. So I'm going to pull one up by clicking this new button here. And here you can see a create new field form. So I'm going to go through at a very high level what the schema is first. So the schema being this section up here. So starting with the display name, this is what your field is going to look like when it's actually on the form. This is what your users are going to see. So the display name, it's going to be what's displaying. So moving along right below it, we have name, and this is one of the more complicated things, but it's really not that difficult to get. This is really what we call a schema name or a system name for this field. So it must be unique, no spaces or symbols or anything. So a unique name, but that doesn't show up on the front end. So just make sure it's unique. It's utilized for all sorts of things in the back end. The field requirement, so you have optional, business recommended, and required. So right now we have optional selected. If I bring this down, you can see my different options. But for example, if a field is optional, there's nothing next to it. If it's business recommended, it'll have a blue cross. Or if it's business required, it has an asterisk like this. You can see for creating this field, for example, that everything that has a red asterisk must have some type of response within it. So I'm just going to leave it as optional for now. Let's just call this, we'll pretend we're creating an account type field, and we'll get to that later. You can see it populates my name automatically. So the description, this is just a general description describing what this field does. You'll notice I skipped past field level security and auditing. It's a bit more advanced than I want to get into today, but at a high level, this allows you, should you decide to try to set up field level security in the future, you can set that to enabled, and then auditing. If you turn on auditing for this entity, this field would then be included in it. So like I said, I'm not going to talk about that too much, but those can always be changed later, so don't stress about it. So next I'm going to move down to the type. So the type section here is kind of the heart of what is this field, what does it need to contain, what is it going to do. So first we have our single line of text. So a single line of text is an open field, so it can be alpha, it can be numeric, it can contain symbols, so it's kind of free form, but it's all within one line. So an example would be this display name field. So you could put any types of letters, numbers, symbols that you want here, but it's all within one line. Next we have an option set. So an option set, also known as a drop-down field, you can have a set of options, and I'll actually show you this because it's what I want to create for my account type. So I'll come back to option set. Two options. You specify two specific options, and this can be a checkbox, radio button, or a drop-down. But again, it's limited to just two options. And once you pick one of these formats, it can't be changed later. So think carefully on these. Image, I'm going to skip past for now. Whole number. So a whole number is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's a whole number. It can't have any decimal places. So if you click this, for example, you'll see there is no place to add any decimals. But if you go down to decimal number, for example, you can set a precision. So this can be 2 if you want it to be. It can go up to anywhere from 0 to 10. Usually we kind of just leave it at this 2. So I'm going to keep skipping through to the most commonly used ones. Currency. This is very simply just a dollar amount. So if I wanted to put in $10.50, for example, it would have an automatic precision of 2, and then also put a dollar sign next to it. Next, we have multiple lines of text. So as opposed to the single line of text, it's like this general description. I can hit enter and, as the name says, have multiple lines. Next, we have date and time. So the date and time field provides you with a little clickable calendar. And the key thing to keep in mind here is you have to decide, do you want it to be date only or show date and time? So for example, if something's due on a specific date and the time is irrelevant, it's like select date only. If you do want to capture time, for example, capturing when a phone call took place, you can select date and time there. Next, we have a lookup field. So lookups are much too complicated for me to go over everything about that today, but what I would say is, in a nutshell, really what lookups are is it's a lookup or a reference to another entity. So for example, if I wanted to say I want to show something about a specific opportunity, for example, on this form, then I can select opportunity, and this would give me that magnifying glass where I could look up to another record in the system. So again, be careful with these. They're a little bit more complicated than just creating a simple form or field on the form, because it's actually going to create a relationship as well. So like I said, I would recommend reaching out to us on a little bit more training on lookups if you think you're going to need quite a few within your system. So as I said before, I'm going to create this account type field as an option set. Now let's just add a couple quick options here. So let's say an account type could be a prospect. It could be a customer, and let's say it could also be a vendor. So very simply here, you can see I just add my options. This is important if it's going to be an option set that's going to be used on multiple or within multiple entities on multiple forms. Click yes. So then if you add an option, it will add it to all of them across the board. So that's about as in-depth as I want to go in that, but that is a big rookie mistake that we see. If it is an option set that's going to be used in multiple places and you want them all to be in sync, make sure it's a global option set. So now I'm simply just going to save and close my field, and that's going to create it. So save and close, and you'll see it get added to my list of fields, and I will quickly show you how to add it to a form. I did a previous video on modifying forms, so I highly recommend you check that out if you want more information on how to rearrange and add and move fields around. So I'm going to pull up that form. So I already opened my account form prior to starting this video, but I would recommend checking out that video on modifying forms again if you want to figure out how I chose which form to open, how I got to the point where I even opened the form. It's really informative in that regard. So you can see though, I've already got my account type field added to my field explorer, my field bank over here. I simply just drag it in. So let's say I want it below my account name, drop it in, save, and publish, and that'll push it out to my live environment, and that's all there is to it, to creating a new field and adding it to the form. So with that, I'm going to conclude my introduction to creating fields in Dynamics 365. If you're interested in learning more about Dynamics 365 or more tips and tricks on how to configure your system, don't hesitate to reach out. I've also included a blog post that goes over everything we discussed in the video today for further materials to help you get started. Feel free to follow us on Twitter, subscribe to us on YouTube to be kept up to date on our latest videos. And again, don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. Thanks again for watching, and have a great day.